Welcome to the Honest Health Podcast with your host, Jeffrey Burke. Honest Health brings you the brightest minds in the natural products industry, as well as athletes and entertainers. Jeff will keep you entertained and informed while educating on how to be successful on your healthy journeys. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Burke.
Hello and welcome back to the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke. I'm so glad you're here. This is a great new platform, and I'm having such an awesome time. I'm bringing you the best guests, the best minds in and outside of the industry, and trying to make sure that you have the availability of as much knowledge at your fingertips to be able to make your life better, healthier, maybe more productive, and maybe even a little bit more energetic along the way. But my guests today are going to always help to spark your interest. Now, today would be no different. Bill Chioffi is back with us today, and we're doing another deep dive into the functional mushroom category. And today, we're going to be talking about reishi. I think you're going to really enjoy this. One of my favorite mushrooms. And like I said, all of them have amazing things. They can all stand on their own. Many of them are used in combination, but individually, we need to get to know them and maybe reintroduce ourselves to these wonderful mushrooms. Help me welcome my guest. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Dr. J, what do you say today?
Oh, I'm excited. I just got back from being on the road, and I'm always excited when we get to talk about mushrooms. I told somebody the other day, I said, I've been doing radio shows on mushrooms for well over 20 years. And for a long time, it seemed like it was falling on deaf ears. And now it's buzzing, now it's blooming, and they're at the top of the spins for movement of products in retail stores, and people are interested, and I think they're listening.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's certainly trending, and the trend continues. And I'm really glad to see people interested in a variety of species outside of like lion's mane. Still, again, seems to be the main species. But today, speaking about Ganoderma or Reishi, however you'd like to say it.
However it comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Is yes, one of my all-time faves. Probably the first functional mushroom that people learn about and certainly has stood the test of time in terms of its both popularity, but it's also quite safe. So yeah, lots to talk about today, Dr. J.
Well, let me ask you a question. It's well known, through periodicals and books, and of course, studies that have been done, known as the king of mushrooms. Is it given that name because of its broad amount of benefits for us, or is just because of the strength of it, or maybe its longevity, or maybe a blend of all of those?
Yeah, well, okay, so you're talking about a species of medicinal fungi, medicinal mushroom, functional mushroom, another, however you prefer to say it, that's been used for over 2,000 years, right? So we have this huge span of time in which this has been consumed by humans, given to humans for specific purposes. And some of those across cultures are quite similar, which also says something about the validity of this as a substance that will stand the test of time. Yeah, there's so much to say about this one species. In fact, there's probably more recorded studies and research on this. Yet it's really only been since about 2000 that it has been accepted into official pharmacopoeias for places like China. And I'm not sure if it is in the official pharmacopoeia of Japan, but at the time that this document, which I'm going to refer to this a bunch today because I think people should know about the Reishi monograph written by the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia. And this document was written in 2000, so it's 25 years old, needs to be updated as all monographs do. But if you go to herbal-ahp.org, or just look up the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia, you'll see these herbal monographs. And they go into the therapeutics of the herb, or in this case, the mushroom reishi. And they are official, meaning that they can be cited as a reference in your quality programs if you are manufacturing. And you can use them in your lab to guide how you might test a botanical for identity purposes. And you can refer to them for safety as well, which the authors of a monograph, in this case, this is a standards of analysis, quality control, and therapeutics. So it combines those and, handily, I don't know if they still do this, but they can go in a 3-ring binder so that if you are in a retail setting and you do want to refer people to a document that they can read more for themselves after you've shown them where things are on the shelf and so forth, and talked about quality and price as you know them, then you can refer to them to this for more information. But I think that the history is well noted, and I'm just going to read something from this, which kind of is a short synopsis of what the traditional literature says about this botanical. And again, quoting the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia, reishi mushroom was listed among the superior tonics in the most famous of all Chinese materia medicas, the Shen Nung Ben Kao Jing, 206 BC to AD. Superior herbs were among the most highly regarded of all the medicines, since they were considered to prolong life, prevent aging, boost qi, make the body light and limber, and correspond to heaven. Reishi mushroom was listed as the most respected out of the 120 superior tonics cited. Specifically, in this text, red reishi, which is Ganoderma lingere or lucidum, was reported to treat the binding in the chest, tonify the heart, nourish the center, sharpen the wit, and improve memory. In addition to its physical properties, red reishi was said to cultivate virtue. Okay, now there's a noble characteristic of anything if you can cultivate virtue in a living being. But I mean, they're just amazing. All right, here's a couple of really prime examples. Beautiful. These are actually how we get batch or lot reference samples in of the extracts that we have made, as we get voucher specimens like this that can have been verified by various methods to determine their identity. We call this one a baby reishi. They will grow much bigger than this. You can see some of these growing behind me. That's from a picture of a farm in China. This one is it's a little bit bigger than my hand. I love the heart shape. And again, if you are an herbalist and you know something of the doctrine of signatures, and you just heard me reference Shen and the heart, you will hearken to your doctrine of signatures and the color. And so I think that, all these things are really worth noting. And I think there are great references for reishi. Again, this one from the US being top notch. And I would love to be able to help Roy Upton and the folks at AHP with a revision of this. I think it's, and also an awareness maybe in the retail trade of these herbal monographs, as we have more and more information available, that, let's say, you would need to check the references on those sources of information. Not to say that, people are getting in all inaccurate information, but there's more sources available now, right? And a lot of things, let's face it, are written by AI programs even. And a human is checking to see if they sound right. But when you go back to original references like this that are citing texts that have been around for millennia, that's solid for me. So,
well, you did hit on something that's really important, and that was the retail stores.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that we we have to remember is that, I mean, I was in the stores for years, and there is so much to know and so much to
Yeah.
remember. And, one of my friends was saying, it's a health food store. How much do you have to know? And I'm like, dude, I said, you have no idea how much information we have to know. And then as soon as we get to know it, new testing comes out and changes what we used to know to what we have to know now. And I
Yeah.
said, so now that, mushrooms are starting to really kind of dig in, and the health food store employees, I think, of course, them getting great information, them having reference material is going to make it better for them. So they know these mushrooms individually as well as in blended combinations. I think that it's really, really important for them to be able to have the knowledge, because, people are going there for a reason. They want to have a conversation. There's a respect there. And, it's not just about, doing what you do. It's also more about the conversations and the relationships that you're building, because a lot of people are really using these for a specific reason, and their health is really important. And the more knowledge we have, the better we can share.
Yeah, I
So,
totally agree with you. And, I also, I mean, yeah, when you're like, you'd have no idea what people, I still remember questions from working on the floor in retail, which is where I got my start in this business. Yeah, I would really scratch my head and walk away and say, like, did that person really just ask me what they can do for their chronic myelogenous leukemia? I got a box cutter and an apron on here, but it made me realize that there is a level of responsibility that you have when people are coming to you for this type of information. One, to know what you don't know.
exactly.
And two, to know where to send people for authentic information so that they can get professional help with this. And let's face it, like, there are NDs, there are MDs who work in retail health food store settings that I've met in my lifetime. And so I'm not saying that there aren't the qualifications there, but like, when you have a serious condition like this, I've always recommended referrals to a naturopath, to an MD, to an integrative practitioner, to a nutritionist, somebody that can walk along with you in the educational journey of removing the obstacles to affect the homeostasis that has been lost. And so it's a heavy duty responsibility. And like, if you sit there all day on the floor in a health food store and you hear these things and you hear about people's health problems, basically, right? Because let's face it, like, yeah, they run the gamut of, like, I've got a little rash, to the example I just shared with you. So if anything, a lot of folks could use the effects of reishi to help protect their shen and their heart. Because if you are compassionate, and I feel most folks that end up in our sector of what we do are very compassionate. So you have to take care of your own shen and heart. And like, when people ask me, what do you take? Like, I use reishi. I use this on a daily basis. Really,
Me too.
take some breaks now and then, like I do with everything. But yeah, I like to put the powder in my coffee, and it does leave a little residue with the insoluble fiber that's there from reishi, but I don't really mind. I think we, as herbal folks, we're used to swishing around, like,
We are.
yeah. And so but notably, right, like reishi, one of the components that has the medicinal properties is that bitter taste. In, I'd say, Ganoderma lingzhi and lucidum, the bitter, lingzhi meaning the species that we have in China in commerce, is this one. Ganoderma lucidum is a species that, well, there are some identity issues being worked out right now with people who are molecular biologists looking at the genetics. But really, like, when you go to China and if you were to go to a shop and you were to get sliced slices of this or a whole one, you would be getting what they refer to as Ganoderma lingzhi or lingzhi. And so this is bitter component is a good organoleptic or qualitative test to see if you have something that's authentic as well. Because if it is truly an authentic reishi, Ganoderma, lingzhi, it will have a bitter taste to it, and which is why I like to put it in coffee, because coffee is bitter, which is why many of us sweeten it to cut that. Although I think it's those bitter principles. Bitter is better, and bitters are coming into their own in terms of the knowledge of their effect on the microbiome. Well, traditional herbalists have known this for quite some time, and so I think that's a component with reishi that's a real good qualitative test. Like if I was, let's say, buying a powder at co-op or something, I might see if I could taste a little bit of it, see how bitter it was. And notably, like the Ganoderma that grow on hemlock trees in the southeast around where I moved from the Asheville area, that's called Ganoderma tsuge, and that is a reishi, a hemlock reishi. And what I noticed with that one is it does have similar coloring. It has a way less bitter taste. It still has a bitter taste, but way less than what I noticed when I have powdered extract of lingzhi, Ganoderma lingzhi. So yeah, there's these slight differences. I think you can use them interchangeably. The end results and health effects will be quite similar, but when they go into a commercial use and you have them in a health food store where thousands of people, hundreds, hopefully thousands of people are buying them in your store, you want to use things that are registered and known names for herbs. And there's a really good book called Herbs of Commerce. It's in its third printing, and it's from the American Herbal Products Association. And this lists all the commercial names that are standardized common names. So when we say reishi, there are many, many different Ganoderma species. So you want to make sure that you're using the Ganoderma species that are in commerce when you're putting out a dietary supplement that's sold in a health food store to the regs. So these types of references should be used. And I know there's probably even more features now available in stores that tap into the internet with a tablet or some format. Typically, I didn't see them in my stores back home, and here where I live in BC on the Sunshine Coast, like the little health food store that's here definitely doesn't have that. But there are certain references that we all know get dog-eared in the nutrition department. Remember prescriptions for nutritional healing? Yeah, is that still going on?
Still going on. Still
Nice.
see them in stores.
Bulge and bulge.
But I have a crazy question. You mentioned up in the area you are now. Is this a mushroom, a functional mushroom that is grown stateside, or is most of it grown abroad?
I think there's some folks that are growing Ganoderma here. I see some of the finger type forms where sometimes you'll see pictures of these crazy fingers coming out. It can be grown on logs. The mycelia can be grown on grain, sterilized grain. Some of that mycelia I've seen some of that myceliated grain I've seen has some mushroom coming off of the block, let's say, of grain, small fingers or shoots coming out. But in terms of like commercial, like scalable commercial amounts of Ganoderma fruiting bodies dried, like this, which this is a small one, but like not that no, there aren't.
Okay.
Not scalable, probably smaller amounts for sure. But I mean, there are some pretty cool videos of the production of this. Knoll Farms has a really great one that I think we posted it on the Nammex site to push out. Like, here's what the commercial production of reishi looks like at scale. Because it's not just the North America that has an interest in this. I mean, it's known worldwide, and there's a worldwide demand for this. And what's interesting always to me in China is that it's actually the spore preparations that they go crazy for, not so much the fruiting body extracts or the mycelia. They do sell pure mycelia of Ganoderma lingzhi. It's grown in a giant liquid fermentation tanks, and then the mycelia is allowed to consume that liquid and grow itself out, and then you can wash the nutrient liquid off after it's done growing, and you have pure mycelia. And so this pure mycelia is something that our company has sold it for quite some time and continues to. So it's a little bit of a, we're the fruiting body company, but we do have legacy customers that have been doing business for a really long time that use the mycelia. It lacks the triterpenoids that I just described that have that very bitter component. It does have good polysaccharides and other components nutritionally in pure mycelia. And reishi mycelia is one that does get very robust, like meaning there's a lot of mass there. And some really cool technology is going on with it in terms of growing what they call aerialized mycelia. Have you heard of this?
No.
So it's like a type. It can be. I'll drop a plug for Ecovative is a company that grows food type products from pure fungal mycelia, and really interesting folks with some pretty killer technology dialing in a lot of AI to exploit growth characteristics of these fungal mycelia, manipulating food sources of nutrients, CO2 levels, things like this. And so they can grow mats of reishi mycelia that are just thick mats on a very thin layer of nutrient. And basically by controlled indoor conditions, they can dial in these things. And again, I think maybe one of the previous shows I talked about a food product called corn, that the vegan meat alternative tastes like chicken. Like so many things people say. And so that's something that is there. But I say, like, I don't really see that that product isn't sold in the US, like pure mycelia. It's mostly the mycelia fermented grain products. And like, yeah, I think in terms of how you might incorporate reishi into your diet, again, like an authentic extract will be kind of bitter, so you want to just keep that in mind. And when you're making recommendations, right, like in the store, I think that's why they're encapsulated products. And I was a big believer for a very long time that like you really had to taste something bitter in order for it to work at all. It's not necessarily true because we have bitter receptors that go down through the whole alimentary canal. And so kind of depends, like everything, right?
No, I was the same way. And I used to think the same exact thing. And then, I did a little delving in myself, and I realized that those receptors do follow all the way through, and you're not getting them on the buds, but you're getting the sensation through the rest of the body. So I had the same. I was there too. I
I
thought the same thing.
remember, yeah, totally. I remember one of my great teachers that I fondly remember is Dr. Bill Mitchell, one of
Hmm.
the co-founders of Bastyr. And I remember him answering that question one time at one of the Medicines from the Earth symposiums in North Carolina. And he said, "You got to think that those herbs are going to get where they need to go if once you get them in your system." This question of bitters in a pill or bitters obviously there are certain things that happen physiologically the moment we taste anything bitter, and that can not be disregarded at all. But I do think, like, look, like when you're serving the common denominator of someone who just, won't take something bitter, but they need to get it. So many of the herbal medicines we take that have effects have a bitter component to them. Well, it might not be their primary, it's there. So, yeah. So I think coffee's obvious place for bitter things, but it could be mixed with something sweet to balance things out. Chocolate could be good use for it. It's one of those as well that while it is probably best in a formula, it's one that does suit to be given by itself as well. I'm a
Do
big
you?
fan of formulation with
I am
herbs.
too.
But
Do you remember Swedish bitters?
oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I've got a lot of stories about that. If you're talking about now, which one are you talking about? Sweetish bitters from Gaia Herbs from years ago, or
No.
Swedish bitters like the old Vogel,
Yeah,
that
the
one.
old. Yes.
I don't know if it's a
Whew.
Vogel, but probably.
That
Uh,
was that's going way back. So
yeah, yeah. No, those are all those bitter formulas. I think there's many of them, and gentian definitely showing up there, and they can help with your digestion.
Mhm.
Absolutely, 100%. Um, so in that regard too, I remember. Can I tell a story about Ric
I would love
Scalzo?
it. That'd be
Okay,
great.
I'll tell you a quick one. So when I was a rep for Gaia, I would go around to the different health food stores, and like some were right in my backyard, and some were quite far away because had the upstate New York and New England was my territory, so it was massive. And anyway, I would occasionally go into stores where Ric would have practiced when he was before he opened Gaia, and he would set up his iridology thing and go into these local health food stores and do consultations for people. Imagine being able to do that. Oh my gosh, these days. But anyway, he was in a health food store, and a client, I met this guy, right? And he was coming in by Swedish bitters, and they're out of it at the store for some reason. I had a sample in the car, so I told the guy, like, oh, I have a sample. I helped the store out, and I'll just give you this sample out of the car. And I said, can I ask you what you're using this for? And he said, oh yeah. He's like, well, do you know the owner of this company? And I said, oh, of course I do. He's my boss. It's like, okay. Well, when I was training for triathlons, and I kind of hit what we call a bonk, where I just wasn't able to go any further with my training, and then I thought I was eating everything properly and doing everything I needed to do. And so when I was in one day, he was doing these consultations. He did an iris diagnostics for me, and then I think he felt my pulses, and then he told me that, yeah, you are doing everything right, you're eating everything right, but you're not assimilating any of the things that you're doing properly anymore. You have some constitutional deficiencies there that could be corrected by this. And so you need to take Swedish bitters every day before each meal and do this for the rest of your life. And the guy remembered it, and he said, yeah, he actually helped take me past this bonk in my career. And I was able to go on competitively a little bit more, and, you know, So things like this, where you learn those concepts of like, okay, so bitters is good for digestion, but what else is it good for? If it's good for digestion, then it's good for assimilation, which means that, as Rick so intelligently said, you could be eating the healthiest diet in the world that's organic and everything that you know to be loaded with nutrients. But if they're not getting absorbed, then you may not, you're not getting the most out of them. Um, and
Going
that's
through the motions.
yeah, going through the motions. And that's for someone who is probably in optimal health in a lot of ways, like taking care of themselves exercise wise, looking at their diet. And um, yeah, so I think this is where, as a longevity tonic, you heard the description earlier of how it even sounds a little hysterical, like, promotes longevity and chi and lightness and limberness, and the like, oh, that sounds like it provides everything we need as we age, right? Like, yeah, it does. The other thing that can't be disconnected here is that nothing in a traditional system happens in a vacuum. Everything is connected. So you can take your reishi, you will get a prescription or whatever you want to call it for some herbs to take, but you're also told to get up and go for a walk in the morning and to do other things with your life and to practice kindness and to be conscious that you are a part of and not separate from. And so those are the types of things I think, those are all things you can definitely suggest in a health food store that are totally DSHEA compliant, at least right now. We'll see.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. Very
Yeah.
true.
But yeah, it's the lifestyle. It's a total lifestyle, which these mushrooms, all of them that we're talking about, can contribute to, for sure.
One quick question that comes up a lot, and I think a lot of families and parents, and they're asking a lot of this about the cultural aspects of using functional mushrooms as far as the age brackets. Are children, they want to know if children can use these. They want to know even their food, so that's a big question. I'm glad that they're asking, but it's becoming a very common question. Are there age cutoffs? So
I would follow your same rules and guidelines as you would use for herbal medicine in general. Okay. Their safety is well known. Some people can be allergic to mushrooms of certain kinds. Shiitake is known to cause us kind of dermatitis in a set of individuals, but so are other foods that we may be exposed to early on, first time. I'd say if it doesn't run in the family, probably pretty likely that it's okay, but all things in moderation. Try some mushrooms with your kids at home. I mean, that's one for sure that you either know you like them or you don't when you get served them the first time as a kid. And if you hated the way mushrooms were prepared for you the first time you ate them as a kid, if it was bland or something, you're not going to want those. But now, I mean, there was an ice cream that was made with lion's mane in it. Just amazing. So like, yeah, that tastes really good. So those are things that I think we've adapted, and how I've seen innovation going as well in the space is where it's not just a typical tincture, extract, capsule, smoothie powder. They're incorporated into other foods. And I think that's appropriate for something that you would take for an extended period of time, maybe smaller doses for a longer period of time as a tonic, as you would, not using, let's say, higher doses for a shorter period of time where you're using something more as a treatment.
Situational medicinal.
Yeah, situational. Yeah.
So real quick, I know people can go to the Nammex webpage because it's loaded with great information. The article that you showed us previously, can people still order this? Is it available?
Yeah, if you go to herbal-ahp.org, or just look up American Herbal Pharmacopoeia. You can still order those, I think, directly from the AHP. Should have done my homework a little better to plug it, but
No, it's great.
Yeah, that, and there are quite a few studies that are on PubMed, the National Library of Medicine. So that's one place where I think it's worth, and it's also worth sending. Again, if you're listening and you're in a retail store, it's worth still sending people to PubMed and having them do their own queries. The reading is pretty technical, and usually there's a good conclusion or an abstract, at least, that's published. My experience is most of the best ones, you have to buy that publication for a specific reason because there's a value attached to them, and they're published often in journals that require a subscription, or at least you need to pay for them. But there's plenty of that are open access as well. And so as we try to write more papers ourselves here at Nammex for publication, we try to make those open access so that you can read the full articles and download PDFs without having to pay for those. So those are two good places to look for information, more info.
We like that. Bill, leave us with a thought for the day. I know I always ask you this, but I appreciate the ones you leave us with. So,
Well, one thing I was reading about reishi was that it can also help to enhance your will.
Okay.
Meaning not the will that someone will leave you, like your will.
No. I got
Testament.
it.
But your willingness, let's say, right? Like your willingness. And I'd say that's my thought for the day, is that once you have decided to do something, like that was hard enough, right? You made the decision, whether it was to get healthy, to do something differently at work, to take up a spiritual practice, to anything. You've made the decision. That was really hard. Now you have to be willing to take that decision and do something with it through the rest of your time, since you made this decision that it was so important to do this thing. So I'd say just be willing, continue to be willing to fill in the blank, learn, be willing to be open to other ideas, be willing to, and again, fill in the blank. But if you just leave yourself with that thought, like I just need to be willing to do that. So I guess that's my thought for the day.
I like it. I hope
Thanks.
you guys have enjoyed this today. I've been speaking with Bill Chioffi, representing Nammex. Make sure to visit the Nammex site for amazing information. And, as we're all getting into these wonderful functional mushrooms, finally, we need to know more. And this would be a great place for you to go. Don't forget to look at the past interviews that Bill and I have done, because we're doing a deep dive. We're hitting one functional mushroom at a time. And this is great information if you're just learning. And it's a great, refamiliarizing yourself with something you may have not retained as well as you thought. And it's really good to be able to have this information. So if you like what we're doing, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. You can visit us on Spotify. And we are also coming to a lot of platforms very, very soon. So we'll be available almost everywhere. So if you're inside or outside the natural products industry, bottom line is we all need to get healthy, be healthy, and stay healthy. And don't forget, you can also leave comments as well. We'd love to hear from you. Bill, thank you for being here today. Always an absolute pleasure for me. And I can't wait till our next round.
Thanks a lot, Doctor. Thanks a lot, Dr. J. Have a nice day.
All right, you too. Be well, my friend.
Stay tuned for more information from the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. And make sure to check back often for interviews and conversations from the guests we all want to hear from. I'm John the Announcer. Thanks for listening.